ladies. I'm so happy to be interviewing for the position of director today. Thank you for having me.
Quite welcome.
Okay. So, why are you thinking of leaving your job right now and have this interview?
Oh, that's a great question. I am looking to start a new career. I've had so much experience in workforce development. To me, this is just another added layer to see it from the training perspective. And so I think the value that I bring to the table is my knowledge, and it would give me a 360 view of the entire system, so it would benefit the students.
Okay, so what are your visions for this position that we already don't have?
That's another great question. I think my vision, if I could paint it for you, is for us to be the best vocational training school in the company, and I plan to accomplish that through continuous quality improvement, soliciting feedback from the students and the staff, seeing how we can make us the best school, not only in Las Vegas, but the country. And so that would be my vision, is for us to stand apart and for the other schools to either catch up or fall back.
Okay. So what makes you different from, obviously we are interviewing other candidates, so what makes you different from them? What makes you shine? What are your qualities that makes you different from them?
I think the qualities that makes me different from the other candidates is not only my experience, because I believe everybody brings experience,
Yes.
but it's my passion. It's my drive to help people, and for me to create the best learning environment possible. So I believe that education is about more than just books. We have to educate the whole 360 for the person, be it financial literacy, through workshops, or through professional development classes, goal setting classes, but also offering community resources to our students, such as I know agencies that can pay for rental assistance or utility assistance, because how can they stay focused on education when their home life is
Yes.
falling apart? And so because I have so many community connections and partnerships, I am willing to bring that to the table.
If hired, do you have any track records of what you're claiming, of your achievements or something like that?
I do. When you walk into the One Stop, that's one of my achievements.
Okay.
So not only was I on the team that opened up the original One Stop, but we also was part of the team and led the initiative to put the libraries and the One Stops together, so that when you go into the libraries, since they are sort of like the community gatekeeper to information, and they're trusted, they're the hub of the communities, of putting the One Stops into those locations so that people don't have to drive across town. They can get services right in their communities. Also, I started as a career coach.
Okay.
And so I'm familiar with the enrollment process, and I can help our students to navigate that process, not only by experience, but by relationships. And so what I do best is I build high-performing teams. And high-performing is not just enrollment, but it's how we work together so that the students and the community benefits.
Okay. I have one last question. You're talking about improving the performance of this office, right?
Mhm.
For right now, I really have a problem with attitudes, and bickering and personal stuff. How do you solve that?
Well, I consider myself to be not only an expressive, but a driver and a democratic leader. So the first thing I do is I believe in people trying to resolve the situation amongst themselves. And then if they can't, I will bring them in my office and I ask them questions specifically. What would resolve this matter for you? And then I like to work backwards from there.
Backwards meaning
Meaning I want to start with, what resolution are you seeking from this conversation?
what? Okay.
Because if we start from the problem and we stay there, we never get to the resolution.
Yeah.
So the way I work is I like to start with the resolution, because when you're sitting in front of somebody, you already know what your goal is.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can get them to start with the goal and then build a plan on how we can reach it so that it's amicable between the two parties. And really just getting them to hear each other out.
Okay.
And then we come back and check in about a week later and see, is this working? And it's okay if it's not. Then we start over and come up with a new plan.
Okay.
But teamwork is what I do because I believe in bringing out the best in everybody and what they bring to the table. And sometimes there are differences of opinion, but if you build a culture of change and feedback, whether good or negative, feedback doesn't always have to be negative, then that's how we become the best school.
Thank you, Ms. Bonita.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
I would like to know, how essential are you when faced with a difficult problem on a project?
I like being faced with difficult problems because it's a challenge for me and it gives me a chance to research, and it also gives me a chance to tap into the knowledge and experience of my team. And we resolve it as a team and come up with the best possible solution. And as I stated earlier, if that doesn't work, we can build upon it or we can scrap it. The only difficult problems are those where people are not willing to seek solutions or they only see one side. So by bringing everybody to the table, that's how you get the best ideas and you build upon them, and that's how you get to a resolution and get everyone's buy-in.
Okay. And how focused would you be on your job?
I am very focused on my job. Sometimes I'm a little too focused on my job. In fact, I'm usually the first to come and the last to leave. I have to be careful because I work weekends, nights, overtime, and so because I'm so passionate about what I do. And so I do realize that there's a balance between self-care and commitment to your job. But I like to hit the ground running, and it's hard for me to lose that momentum once I get started. I'm just all ahead once I get started. And so I'm very focused and dedicated to the mission and vision of this company.
Okay. And how would you improve the performance of the job?
I would improve the performance by first, like I said, creating a culture of feedback, whether positive or negative. To give you an example, let's say we put a new process in place for enrollment. I would check in with the students and with the staff. How is this working for you? Is there anything that needs to be fixed? I don't like to just make unilateral decisions, especially when it affects other people's jobs, their education, and their performance. That's why feedback is so important from a 360 view, because what I may think is a great idea and the best thing since cooked grits might not be that way for you. It may have just made your job harder, right? But if I never asked you that question, how would I know? And so that's how I build a team of change and positive feedback.
Okay, that's it. Question.
Okay. What would you do in a situation if a supervisor was wrong? How would you handle that situation?
First of all, I would ask questions, right? When you say wrong, like, was it wrong where it was against policy and I could direct them back to policy? Or is it wrong, maybe the policy needs to be changed or updated because maybe they made the best decision possible based on their job, and maybe the policy is outdated. So I always like to hear from that person and ask the question, why did you make this decision? Right, what did you base it off of? Okay, let's research it. Let's go back and read policy. So are you saying you made this decision, like let's say for example, policy is that students can't be in the building after 5 o'clock, right? And so a staff person had a student in here after 5 o'clock. Upon first look, that would be wrong, right? Because it's against policy. But what if it was a safety issue, the lights were out in the parking lot, and that student's ride had not come yet? Right, so then that staff person made a judgment call. Let's talk about some safety procedures and how we update them. So I never just go in assuming that the person is wrong without finding out why they made that decision and how we can keep them from having to make that decision again.
Okay, that's a good answer. Why do you feel you want this position?
I want this position because it's in alignment with my career goals and I care about people. And so education was a way out for me, out of poverty for my family. And we know that education can change the trajectory of not only an individual, but their family for generations. And so vocational training to me makes sense because I owe almost $100,000 for my master's degree. And it took me almost 6 years to get it. But if you can get the equivalent in a short-term training, such as what is offered at this school in 6 months or less, and you are able to work, and plus you bring experience to the table, I think that that's the best thing. We don't create debt, right, which affects families, and we create change within the family and pride, where people go back to their family and say, look, if I did it, you can do it. And so, and now you're making more money as well. So that changes the family dynamic. So that's why this job is so important to me. Because I believe in our community. I believe success is possible for anybody that wants it. And I am willing to be the voice and part of the change that drives it and to lead the team.
That's very good. And what is your asset to this company?
I think the asset to this company is not only my winning personality, as you can tell, but I also think it's because I'm solution focused. I think everything has a solution, and I also think that it doesn't always have to be mine. Right? I think solutions can come from students, it can come from staff, it can come from other agencies, but definitely it comes from partnerships within the community. And that's why when I say things that we're partnering with our students on their journey to success, that's what it is. It's a partnership.
Right.
Because we're gonna walk beside you, walk beside them, right? Where they can feel confident enough to come to me with things that's not about their books, right? Or that it's about their personal life. I want our students to be safe. I want us to work through this COVID. Do you need masks? Do you need for me to come early to let you in? Those kinds of things. Those are the assets that I bring to the table, is my level of commitment, my creativity, and my partnerships. And to me, that's what makes me stand out from the other candidates.
Very good.
Very good.
You're hired.
Oh, thank